Dear colleagues, we have with us today the Prime Minister of Slovenia, Roberta Goloba. Prime Minister, dear Robert, let me start by thanking you for accepting our invitation to address the European Parliament as part of our This is Europe series of debates. These have been difficult days for Europe, and it is time to reaffirm our values. The war in Ukraine is continuing unabatedly. Pushed back onto the battlefield, the Kremlin has increasingly turned its war machine onto innocent civilians, weaponizing basic commodities in a desperate attempt to get Ukraine and Europe to concede. I am proud of our clear, united and unwavering response, because our values, our freedom, our liberty, our democracy are non-negotiable. The people of Ukraine are fighting precisely for these values, and yet this does not mean that the consequences are not being felt. People in Slovenia are worried. People in Europe are worried. They are worried about heating their homes, about getting to the end of the month, about paying their bills. And this is the time when European leadership is needed the most. This means common actions, solidarity in gas supply, and the creation of the credible energy single market. This is how we address our citizens' concerns in the short term. But we also need to be clear. Our surest way of achieving full energy independence is by speeding up our green transition, and this has become just as much about security as it is about climate ambition. It is not the time to backtrack. Prime Minister, with 2/3 of Slovenia's power generation being CO2-free, and by further pledging to increase the use of renewable energy by 2030, your country has been showing leadership in this field. What is more, by increasing interconnection with its neighbours, Slovenia is well on track to improve its energy resilience, and I look forward to seeing this same commitment reflected by all member states within our union. Prime Minister, I also see Slovenian leadership when it comes to accelerating the integration process of the Western Balkans, and here I speak more specifically about Bosnia and Herzegovina. This year we have already seen with Ukraine and with Moldova what a powerful message EU candidacy status can give. And my hope for us is to have this same courage also with our friends in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Dear Prime Minister, dear Robert, the floor is yours.
Spoštovana predsednica Metsola, spoštovane članice in člani Evropskega parlamenta, drage državljanke in državljani Evrope. Vem, da bo kasneje zelo polno, zato si bom zdaj malo časa sedaj, da vas ogrejem za tisto, kar vas čaka ob 12. In upam, da bom dovolj zanimiv v svojem izvajanju. V bistvu mi je v veliko čast, da lahko prav danes nagovorim parlament, nagovorim vse državljanke in državljane, ker želim govoriti o skupni prihodnosti Evropske unije. Skupni prihodnosti, ki verjame v moč povezovanja, v moč sodelovanja in v moč enotnosti. Sam, ker prihajam iz majhne članice Evropske unije, se natančno zavedam dejstva, da samo takrat, ko se združujemo na podlagi svojih moči in vrlin in ko vsak prispeva tisto, v čemer je najboljši, lahko tvorimo skupnost, ki bo najuspešnejša. In takrat, ko je ta skupnost enotna in odločna, takrat lahko ta skupnost premika meje mogočega. In verjamem, da je ravno danes Evropa kot celota, ne samo Evropska unija, na preizkušnji ravno pri tem, koliko moči premore, da bo naslovila zgodovinske izzive, s katerimi se sooča. Potem, ko smo 2 leti živeli v obsedenem stanju strani COVID-a in ne se bati, ne bom govoril o COVID-u danes, smo se zaradi ruske agresije morali soočiti s situacijo, ki je nismo videli po zaključku druge svetovne vojne na evropskih tleh. Soočamo se s situacijo, v kateri so kršene vse mednarodne norme, kršena je suverenost države na podlagi vojaške agresije brez razloga. Ta agresija ima, poleg vseh ostalih implikacij, izjemne posledice tudi na nas, na vse državljanke in državljane Evropske unije in na naše gospodarstvo. Ne samo energetska kriza, ne samo energetske cene, vse to je pripeljalo do tega, da smo danes soočeni tudi z gospodarsko krizo in predvsem z višanjem cen na vseh področjih in rekordno inflacijo. Zato bom danes naslovil predvsem 3 področja. Največ bom posvetil, glede na moje ozadje, energetiki in zeleni tranziciji, zelenemu prehodu. Dotaknil pa se bom tudi vladavine prava in pa geopolitičnih prizadevanj, katerih je Slovenija majhen, ampak vseeno pomemben kamenček v mozaiku. Dear ladies, dear gentlemen, let me give you just a brief background on myself in order to fully understand why I will address energy as the major topic during my speech. For the last 15 years, I was working at the energy company, the company that I founded and I was running as a CEO, the company that grew from 0 up to 3 billion in revenues, the company that was the largest energy trader in Southern and Eastern Europe, the company that grew from 0 to the largest supplier of electricity in Slovenia, and the company which in the latest years was also the largest provider of solar power plants, meaning that we did embark on the investing in renewables as well. Having said that, let's switch to the main topic, and that is energy. It is totally clear to everyone that overdependence on one gas source, which is from Russia, led to the weaponization of that particular energy source during last year, and that the consequences of that weaponization we are facing right now. But even though the lack of supply was rightly addressed by the swift action, both by the Parliament and Commission, during the last weeks, meaning that just by combining the 3 factors, which is being able to reduce the demand, being able to find new sources from friendly countries, and being able to keep the pipelines open throughout Europe by implementing the solidarity clause, we were able to cover for the energy needs. But it was not enough to address the prices. And this is one topic that I always emphasize whenever I speak to my colleagues at the European Council, and that is that, yes, a lot has been done, but more needs to be done as well in the future. And this week is crucial in that regard. So either we address properly the high energy prices, and when I say properly means decisively, and when I say decisively, we need to implement regulatory changes in the market mechanisms, because the internal energy market at the moment, I will not say it's not working, I will say it's being worked by the speculative money, but for their own profits and not for the benefits of the population of Europe. And this is where the responsibility of the European Council comes into light, because it's up to us to address this issue in the proper manner, and we already asked Commission once to come up with a set of measures which will adequately address this issue, and I cannot say that I'm happy with what the Commission has come up with. It will not work, it's not enough. We will need to be more decisive in order to reduce the volatility on the markets. We will need to be more decisive to eliminate price spikes, and we will need to be more decisive when it comes to the gas price caps, sorry. And it's the energy ministers sit in the council of today. And I certainly hope and urge that they will come to a common decision by whatever means in order to show the unity, not to the population, but to the markets. Because we need to show the unity to the speculative traders. And remember, I made my living by doing that, so I know what I'm talking about. So we need to show them a clear message and unity that we will not be drained. We will not let them drain our budgets. We will not let them drain the global competitiveness of our industry for their profits. It's a very important message, and that's why I'm repeating it all over the place, and I'm doing it right now. But the future doesn't stop today and doesn't stop this winter, so we need to look forward, onward, and the green transition is actually not just the only way forward, but it is also the only way that addresses the three issues simultaneously. It does improve and it does bring autonomy, independence, energy independence to Europe. It is the only way to energy independence. It does mitigate climate change, because that's the only way how to reduce the impact of energy on climate. And it also, at the end of the day, it also brings lower energy prices. So we do address all three issues simultaneously, and that means that, again, we cannot linger. We need to move as bold and as ambitious as possible. If that means speed up the permitting process, well, yes. If that means building more, not just interconnectors, but more gas and pipe and power lines, yes, we do need more power lines at all levels. We can put them underground, but we need them, and we need more storage capacity as well to enable the grids to connect more renewables. And this is really the only way forward. And if we act bold and decisive, and if we link the wind potential of north with some potential of the south, put some hydro in the mix and some storage in between, yeah, in the next 10 to 15 years, we could be totally renewable in Europe. It is a vision, but it's doable. Okay, it might take us 5 more years than that, but it's doable, and that's the most important message. And for that reason, not just because of the energy crisis that we're facing now, we own it. We owe it to our children to do it now, because it's doable, so there is absolutely no excuse that we wait with our next steps when it comes to that. Before entering politics, while I was still the executive, I was also the EU Climate Pact ambassador. I was promoting and sincerely promoting it, because I was doing the energy trading, but for my soul, I was promoting the self-sustainable home energy systems. The systems where each of us that owns a home can become totally independent on himself, on hers or his energy needs, for all energy needs. Electric vehicle, sunroof solar, heat pumps, and the storage. By doing that, we helped thousands and 10,000s of households in Slovenia to become totally independent from the existing crisis. So they're not just helping the environment. At the moment, they are totally independent on the energy crisis. And the one thing that we are addressing all the time when it comes to energy transition, we are always addressing how do we deal with the energy for our machines, for our technologies. But we are overlooking one important thing. This is my second message. We are overlooking the how do we address the energy that we need to fuel our bodies, which is food. Food system that we are utilizing right now is totally unsustainable for our future. Totally. Unless we change the food production and food consumption in a very thorough way, we will not be able to meet any of the climate goals. Because if the rest of the world would follow in our steps, we would need 7 planets just to sustain the food consumption, which is obviously not something that can be done. Now, of course, each of us can start the change in himself or herself, changing the diet. Of course, that's easy. Just switch from less meat. I'm not saying no meat, but let's consume less meat. Let's consume more plant-based food. Anyway, it's healthier, but this is not the story today. But in that way, we will help the planet, and we will help our children as well. Not just by teaching them how to be healthier, but also in teaching them how to be sustainable. But that's individual choice. What is the responsibility of the government or of the authorities? The main responsibility is the building of the awareness of scientific facts when it comes to food, plus, and this is important, to enable the choice. Enable the choice of healthier food to be available in public systems. That's what we did on a small scale in Slovenia back home, and results are amazing. We didn't have to force anyone, and 50% of consumers at a particular facility switched within a month on a totally plant-based food. It was an individual choice that was enabled by the authorities, not enforced. This is very important. Going back to the other thing where the responsibility of the government is even more, of the authorities even more crucial is, of course, rule of law. And when it comes to rule of law, I will share a personal story with you. As you already remember, most probably, I was minding my own business, earning lots of money, and being quite happy. Up to a certain point when I realized that the rule of law in Slovenia is just being eaten away by the previous government. The judicial system was slowly being weakened. The freedom of speech and the media, especially freedom of media, was being taken away. And at a certain point in time, again, being happy, I just realized I don't want to live in a country where the rule of law is not existent. This is why I stepped into politics. This is why I stepped out of my comfort zone, not in my comfort zone. And this is why I stand here. And this is so important and that's why I realized that the rule of law is not something to be negotiated about, but it's something to be enforced. And that is the responsibility of all of us that are in the political system. By saying that, the first thing that comes to your mind once you have to make a decision whether you step into politician role or not is, okay, how do we deal with all the exposure? The fake news exposure, hate speech exposure, because that's immediately what you get once you decide to step into politics. And I'm not speaking about uncoordinated or spontaneous fake news or spontaneous hate speech. I'm speaking about hate speech which is financed and instigated by the existing political forces or lobbies. Doesn't matter what you call them. So I urge, and I know that you've already done some steps when it comes to hate speech, the Parliament. I know it's been the Council, the European Council again, who is blocking it. But I urge you to find new ways how to address the issue of paid-for hate speech with a clear clear goal. And the goal is, you know what? To keep the decent people out of politics. That's really the goal. I know there is a fine balance between the freedom of speech and the hate speech, the measures against one and the measures to really improve the freedom of speech. And I'm pretty much sure you will know how to strike the balance. Because the freedom of speech, especially social media, they do play an important role when it comes to really bringing things to our awareness that would otherwise stay hidden. And in this regard, I would like to especially address the Iranian situation, which would not be noticed by anyone in Europe because of the censorship unless there would be social media. And all the efforts done especially by the Iranian women and with their inventive, non-violent ways of protesting against the brutality of the regime and for their human rights or women's rights is something to be really proud of and to give them support as much as possible. So I urge you to be loud, to keep staying loud, and to keep pointing the way forward where they will be heard also within this particular parliament. I know a lot has been done, and I urge you to do more. Let's show them that we do know what our geopolitical responsibility is, even though most of the time, again, within the European Council, that's not the case. Okay, I'm switching back to Slovenian now, sorry. To me pripelje do zadnje točke na agendi, do geopolitičnih prizadevanj, tudi Slovenije. Če kje je Evropska unija pokazala odgovornost in enotnost v primeru ruske agresije na Ukrajino. In zato sem hvaležen vsem inštitucijam, tudi Evropskemu svetu, ki je pokazal res, da takrat, ko je potrebno, znamo biti enotni. Znali smo biti enotni tudi na točki, ko smo uporabili najmočnejše orodje, ki ga ima Evropska unija, in to je širitveni proces. Pozdravljam odločitev vseh inštitucij, da smo tako v Ukrajini kot Moldaviji priznali status kandidatke za članstvo v Evropski uniji in pozdravljam vse napore, tudi parlamenta, zato da se proces pridruževanja pospeši. Kajti pridružitveni proces oziroma proces širitve Evropske unije je v resnici orodje, ki se ga v Sloveniji zelo močno zavedamo, ker smo sorazmerno nova članica. Zelo dobro se spomnim upanja v boljšo prihodnost, ki nam jo je dajal ravno ta širitveni proces. Zato zelo dobro razumem, kakšno upanje v boljšo prihodnost s tem dajemo državljankam in državljanom Ukrajine in Moldavije. In zato pozivam, da se na tem procesu ne zaustavljamo. Enako velja tudi za področje Zahodnega Balkana. Zahodni Balkan je od začetka ruske agresije izpostavljen velikim pritiskom strani propagande. Pritiskom, s katerimi se želi razbiti enotnost Evrope kot celote v obsodbi ruske agresije in predvsem v podpori Ukrajini. In ravno zato mora danes Evropska unija se zavedati, koliko lahko s tem političnim orodjem prispeva ne samo k stabilnosti regije, ampak prispeva tudi k temu, da bomo vsi skupaj ostali enotni pri podpori Ukrajini. Ne gre samo za Bosno in Hercegovino, pa se bom vseeno navezal na njo, gre za celoten Zahodni Balkan, ampak Bosna in Hercegovina je tista država, ki je bila v preteklosti žrtev agresije. In Bosni in Hercegovini smo ravno zato dolžni danes pokazati, da nismo pozabili na njo. Tako kot Ne želimo, da bi kdaj pozabili na Ukrajino čez leta. Ker je ravno to zgodba, ki jo moramo pokazati, da ne dajemo signalov samo na začetku, ampak da smo v stanju zgodbe tudi zaključiti. In v Bosni moramo zaključevati zgodbo. Zgodbo, ki se je začela pred 20 leti in ni še naredila nobenega koraka. In vem, spraševali se boste, kdo ne naredi prvi korak. Ampak s tem, ko je Slovenija mlada članica, bi rad povedal naslednje. Efekt, ki ga ima vstop v Evropsko unijo, je transformativen. Mi smo se spremenili. Članstvo v Evropski uniji spremeni državo, spremeni pogled najprej ljudi, potem pa ljudje poskrbijo, da se spremeni tudi politika. Ne more biti drugače. Računati, da se bodo politične strukture spremenile same od sebi, je iluzorno in ne daje rezultatov. Delati moramo, kot evropski državljani, moramo delati na tem, da naše sodržavljane iz Zahodnega Balkana prepričamo v tem, da je njihovo edino mesto v Evropi in da potem oni poskrbijo za spremembo tudi v političnih strukturah, da bodo politične strukture to dejstvo sprejele kot nekaj, za kar se morajo boriti. In potem bodo sprejeli tudi vladavino prava in demokracijo. Sam ne verjamem v obratni vrstni red. Zato v Sloveniji vse politične strukture močno podpiramo, da se v Bosni in Hercegovini ta proces res prestavi v višjo predstavo in da damo predvsem prebivalcem in prebivalkam Bosne in Hercegovine priložnost, da postanejo enakopravni evropski državljani. Čisto za konec, Slovenija je ponosna članica evropske družine in veliko zadovoljstvo nam je, da bomo lahko skupaj gradili evropsko prihodnost, ne samo z stoječimi članicami Evropske unije, ampak s celotno Evropo. In verjamemo, da je to tista pot, ki bo dejansko pripeljala ne samo do miru, ampak tudi do blaginje za vse državljanke, vse prebivalke in prebivalce Evrope. Naprej Evropa. Hvala.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Golob. And now